For 50,000 years, the Amethyr Empire had defined the meaning of the word civilization. It did not merely rule the galaxy, it curated it. Its influence extended across more than 700 sentient species, all bound by the Amethyr Concordance, a set of laws governing everything from trade tariffs to the acceptable angles of approach for a diplomatic vessel. But the true bedrock of its power, the doctrine that had ensured 500 centuries of expansion, was the Aegis Index. It was a military philosophy elevated to the level of galactic dogma. Specialization was survival. A soldier, a pilot, a politician. Each must have one focus, one tool, one purpose. The core tenet, taught in every Amethyr-sanctioned academy from Heliarch to the Outer Rim, was simple. No species can dual-wield. To utilize two weapons, the Imperial strategists decreed, was to divide the mind, to sacrifice focus, to guarantee failure. It was inefficient. It was chaotic. And in the Amethyr Empire, chaos was heresy. Aidan Vale, maintenance technician 3rd class on the neutral station Kestrel Spire, was currently applying this singular focus to a very stubborn plasma conduit. The spire itself was a monument to organized chaos, a sliver of glass and steel hanging in the silent black of the triangulum void. It was a place where imperial law technically held sway, but where neutrality was the currency. Smugglers rubbed shoulders with diplomats, and mechanics like Aidan kept the station's aging heart beating. Aidan grunted, his knuckles scraping against the bulkhead. The conduit was supposed to cycle every 4 seconds. This one was lagging by 0.3 milliseconds, just enough to throw the entire sector's energy grid into flux. "You are applying 6% too much torque," a voice observed from behind him. The tone was melodic, precise, and laced with an amusement that immediately set his teeth on edge. Aidan paused, not bothering to look up from the glowing seam. "And you're violating safety protocol Yellow 7. Non-technical personnel aren't allowed in Filtration Hub 4. Especially," he added, giving the bolt a final, calibrated twist. "When they talk." He heard a soft sigh, the rustle of expensive fabric. "My apologies. I was merely observing the local fauna." He finally turned, wiping coolant grease on a rag. He looked up, and then up again. She was tall, impossibly slender, and distinctly non-human. She was Silthari, all elegant limbs and skin like polished obsidian. But it was her eyes that held him. They were the famous, multifocal jewels of her people. Irises like shattered amethysts, constantly shifting, analyzing, seeing. They seemed to be looking at his face, his hands, and the conduit he had just fixed, all at the same time. She was Niara Tesh, the new Silthari diplomatic attaché, and she was several levels above his pay grade. "Well, the fauna is busy," Aidan said, clipping his power wrench back to his belt. "If you're lost, the diplomatic suites are 2 levels up. Try not to get ionized on the way." Her lips, a shade of deep indigo, curved slightly. "I am not lost. Technician. I am, however, delayed. My transport to the Imperial Review was assigned a docking bay that seems to be recalcitrant. Bay 7 Delta." Aidan diagnosed without thinking. "Actuators failing. Needs a full diagnostic, but Central Command won't spare the credits." "You know this just by my complaint. It's the only bay assigned to high diplomacy vessels that faces the nebula. The radiation interference plays hell with the magnetic clamps." "It's a design flaw," he shrugged. "Nothing I can do about it." Niara Tesh tilted her head, her multifocal eyes seeming to zoom in on the worn patch on his shoulder. "A maintenance technician. Yet you speak with the certainty of an engineer. Your hands show no plasma scarring, and you move with an economy of motion I last saw in the Imperial Guard." Aidan felt a cold spark, the first one in years. He forced a lazy grin. "Clean living, and premium gloves. Now, if you'll excuse me, Your Excellency." I have a diagnostic to run on a very sarcastic ventilation shaft." He started to move past her. Her voice, soft but sharp as diamond, stopped him. "The Empire believes a tool is only as good as the singular purpose it serves," she mused, seemingly to herself. "They apply the same logic to people. They seem to find it comforting." Aiden paused at the bulkhead door. "Comfort's a luxury, ma'am. Most of us just settle for functional." He left her standing there, the scent of ozone and an alien, floral perfume lingering in the recycled air. He did not like being seen. He had spent 6 years cultivating the image of Aiden Vale, the unremarkable man who fixed things. The man he used to be, the Earth Directorate Special Operative, was buried under 6 years of grease and regret. He made it to the central concourse just as the massive holographic emitters flared to life. The broadcast was mandatory. Kestrel Spire, despite its neutrality, bowed to the Empress. The standardization arena. It was an annual display of imperial military prowess, broadcast to every corner of the galaxy. It was propaganda polished to a mirror sheen. The image solidified, showing a vast, sun-drenched coliseum on the capital world of Heliarch. Billions of spectators, representing hundreds of species, watched as a single Amethyr Praetorian, his silver armor immaculate, faced a dozen hulking robotic warforms. The Praetorian held one weapon, the standard-issue energy glaive. He moved like scripture. Each strike was perfect, efficient, predictable. The robots fell, one by one, dismantled by the flawless application of the Aegis Index. The crowd roared. The camera panned up to the Imperial box. Enthroned, draped in fabrics that seemed woven from light itself, sat Empress Malith Karzara. She was beautiful in the terrifying, sterile way of Amethyr royalty. She rose, her voice amplified across the stars, smooth and cold as pressurized helium. "We convene this arena not to celebrate violence," she declared, "but to celebrate order. We celebrate the known, the predictable, the singular path." She gestured to the arena floor, where the lone Praetorian stood victorious. "For 50,000 years, this doctrine has kept you safe. One mind, one weapon, one purpose. This is the strength of the Empire." Her gaze seemed to pierce the holographic projector, to look directly at the motley crowd on Kestrel Spire. Other species, lesser species, dabble in chaos. They believe division is strength. They are wrong. A faint, condescending smile touched her lips. Humanity, in particular, with its messy emotions and scattered impulses, believes itself the exception. It is not. It is merely unfinished. She raised her voice, letting the silence stretch before delivering the axiom that had defined her reign. No species can dual-wield. Aiden felt the familiar, bitter acid rise in his throat. He turned away from the broadcast, his hands clenched so tightly, his fingernails dug into his palms. Liar. The word had barely formed in his mind when the station alarms blared. It wasn't the familiar chirp of a proximity alert, or the groan of a pressure leak. This was the high-pitched shriek of a military override. "All non-essential personnel to designated safe zones," a computerized voice barked, devoid of panic. "This is not a drill. Kestrel Spire security is yielding to an Imperial mandate. Stand down and comply." Aiden's blood went cold. He didn't run toward the safe zones. He ran toward the nearest maintenance shaft. He saw them before he reached the corridor. A full platoon of Amethyr Royal Guards, their armor the color of a fresh bruise, advanced through the concourse. They moved in perfect, terrifying synchronization. Civilians were screaming, scrambling. The station's small security force, armed with simple stun batons, wisely stepped aside. The guard commander, his helmet optics glowing a menacing red, scanned the crowd, His amplified voice cut through the panic. By order of Empress Malith Karzara, this station is under quarantine. We are searching for a subversive element. A traitor, utilizing prescribed combat techniques. Aiden froze. Prescribed techniques. He was 3 meters from the maintenance hatch, when a fresh wave of panic sent a family of Rhodian merchants tumbling into his path. The father pushed his child behind him, shielding him from the advancing guards. One of the guards raised his rifle, sighting on the Rhodian father. "Clear the path. Compliance is mandatory." "He's just scared," a voice snapped. Aiden turned. Nyara Tesh had emerged from a side corridor. She stood tall, her diplomatic credentials visible on her sash. "I am Attaché Nyara Tesh of the Silthari. Your mandate does not include the execution of neutral civilians. Stand down." The guard commander slowly turned his helmeted head toward her. Aiden saw the man's rank insignia. "Commander, high tier." "Diplomatic immunity is suspended under the Heresy Act," the commander replied, his voice flat. "Move, or be moved." He signaled his soldier. The soldier advanced on Nyara, rifle raised not to shoot, but to strike. Aiden Vale, the technician, vanished. He didn't think. He acted. His body, starved of this motion for 6 long years, responded with a desperate, pent-up grace. He didn't have his old blades. He didn't have a blaster. He had his tool belt. In one fluid motion, he snatched the 2 heaviest tools he carried, a pair of calibrated power wrenches. They were dense, perfectly balanced, and designed to deliver focused kinetic force. The soldier swinging at Nyara never saw him. Aiden moved in from the side, his right hand, holding the first wrench, moved in a tight, defensive arc, parrying the rifle stock with a crack of metal on metal that sent vibrations up the soldier's arm. His left hand, holding the second wrench, simultaneously struck in a short, brutal jab, impacting the soldier's elbow joint. The specialized armor held, but the kinetic shock was too much for the joint beneath. The soldier roared and dropped his weapon. 2 guards turned, registering the threat. They raised their rifles. They were trained by the Aegis Index. They expected a singular opponent. They expected one attack, a parry, and a riposte. Aiden gave them chaos. His right hand blocked a shot, the wrench glowing hot as it deflected the plasma bolt into the ceiling. His left hand was already moving, disabling the weapon of the second soldier. He spun, using the momentum. Right hand blocked, left hand struck. Right hand feinted, left hand disarmed. It was not a fight. It was a disassembly. He was a technician, after all. In less than 3 seconds, 4 royal guards were on the ground, disarmed and clutching shattered joints, their armor smoking but unbreached. Aiden hadn't killed them. He had simply taken them apart. The concourse fell silent. The civilians stared. Nyara Tesh's multifocal eyes were wide, every lens fixed on him. And Aiden stared at the guard commander, who had not moved. The commander slowly raised his hand and unclipped his helmet. The pressurized seal hissed. The face underneath was human, scarred, and framed by graying hair. Aiden knew that face. "You," Aiden breathed. The word was ripped from his lungs. The commander's eyes narrowed, recognition dawning. But it wasn't the face that held Aiden captive. It was the small, tarnished insignia pinned to the man's chest plate, half hidden by his ammo strap. It was the sigil of the Cinder Phoenix, the unit insignia for the force that had pacified the colony of Cygnus 9. Aiden's home, the place he had watched burn, the place where his family had died. This man, this butcher. "Aiden Vale," the commander, Ravel Dorn, whispered, a look of shocked comprehension on his face. "The ghost. It was you." Ravel Dorn smiled, a horrifying, triumphant expression. He raised his sidearm. Before he could fire, something small and metallic whizzed past Aiden's head and shattered against the commander's helmet. It was a civilian data puck, thrown from the crowd. It was the distraction Aiden needed. He grabbed Niara's arm. "Move, now." He didn't pull her toward the safe zones. He yanked her toward the maintenance hatch he'd been eyeing, slapping the emergency release. The door hissed open, and he shoved her inside, diving in after her just as plasma bolts scorched the bulkhead where they had been standing. The door sealed, plunging them into the darkness of the service tunnels. They ran. They didn't stop until they were deep in the station's unlit underbelly, the air thick with the smell of ozone and old metal. Aiden finally leaned against a coolant pipe, his chest heaving, the two heavy wrenches still gripped in his hands. Niara Tesh pressed her back to the opposite wall, her breathing remarkably steady. She watched him, her Silthari eyes glowing faintly in the gloom. "That," she said, her voice perfectly level, "was not standard maintenance protocol." Aiden let the wrenches clatter to the metal grating. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from a rage so pure and so old he had almost forgotten its taste. "He was there," Aiden whispered, more to himself than to her. "He was there." "Aiden Vale," Niara said, stepping forward. "Who are you?" Before he could answer, his wristcom, the standard-issue technician's link, vibrated, a Priority 1 alert. He opened the channel. It wasn't a station warning. It was the galactic news feed, overriding all local traffic. The image was blurry, taken from a civilian security camera in the concourse. It was grainy, lasting only 2 seconds. But it was clear enough. It showed a man in a maintenance uniform, moving like lightning. It showed him holding 2 objects. It showed 4 Imperial guards falling without a single shot fired from the man's weapons. The news anchor, a prim-looking xylophone, was speaking quickly. "Sources on Kestrel Spire report a violent altercation involving a human operative. Imperial authorities have confirmed the suspect utilized forbidden dual-style combat. The feed is spreading galaxy-wide." As Aiden watched, a new broadcast cut in. Empress Malith Karzara was on the screen again. This time, not from the arena, but from her throne room. Her face was serene, but her eyes were glacial. "The act of terror on Kestrel Spire is a symptom of a greater disease," she announced. "An attachment to chaos. The human responsible for this attack has validated our concerns." She leaned forward. "A bounty of 10 million Imperial credits is authorized for the capture of this dual-wielding human." Aiden cursed, slamming his fist into the bulkhead. "But capture is not our only desire," the Empress continued, a thin smile playing on her lips. "We are a merciful empire. We offer this anomaly a chance." She looked directly into the camera, as if staring at him through the tiny screen on his wrist. "We formally invite the traitor, Aiden Vale, to the standardization arena on Heliarch. Let him come before the galaxy and prove his chaotic technique. If he succeeds, his people will be re-evaluated. If he fails, his remaining colonies will face summary sanction for harboring his heresy." The broadcast ended. Aiden stared at the blank screen. A bounty, an ultimatum, and a challenge. "Aiden Vale," Niara repeated, her voice softer now. "She knew your name. They were not here by chance. They were hunting you." Aiden looked down at his hands, no longer shaking, but steady. He thought of the fire. He thought of the Cinder Phoenix sigil. And he thought of Ravel Dorn's smile. "Hunting me," Aiden said, picking up one of the heavy wrenches. He felt its weight. "Yeah, I guess they were." He looked at Niara, the diplomat trapped in the dark with a ghost. "It seems," he said, the old, sarcastic spark returning, but colder now, "that I'm going to Heliarch." The service tunnels were a labyrinth of cold metal and humming conduits. Aiden moved through them, not with the memory of a technician, but with the instinct of a hunter. Niara followed, her long-limbed grace making her movements utterly silent, even on the vibrating metal grating. "She knew your name," Niara said again, her voice echoing slightly in the confined space. They were not conducting a random search. That entire platoon, Ravel Dorn, they were here for you. Aiden didn't slow down. He didn't come for me. He came to kill me. A fine distinction. It's the only one that matters, Aiden said, his voice flat. He stopped at a junction, listening. He heard the distant, methodical thump of magnetic boots on the level above them. Dorn's men were already spreading out. The Empress invited you to Heliarch, Niara reasoned. But this Ravel Dorn wants you dead before you can arrive. He is afraid of you. He's afraid of what I saw, Aiden corrected. And now he's afraid of what you saw. He looked at her, the dim emergency light catching the amethyst facets of her eyes. You are a diplomatic witness to an Imperial Guard unit assaulting a civilian. Another diplomat. And then being neutralized by a heretic. You're a loose end. Your Excellency. Welcome to the club. Nyara's expression tightened. Then, we are allied by necessity. We need a secure channel. My comm is compromised, and I assume your diplomatic link is the first thing they're monitoring. Aiden turned down a darker tunnel, this one marked with obsolete warning signs. I know a place, but the woman who runs it, she's difficult. More difficult than an Imperial fleet. Aiden almost smiled. She's a human engineer. So, yes, infinitely. He led her to a forgotten sector of the station's engineering core, a place pressurized but listed as structurally unsound on all official maps. He keyed a complex sequence into what looked like a simple maintenance panel. A section of the bulkhead hissed open, revealing a workshop that smelled of superheated plasma and roasted calf beans. Sparks flew from a disemboweled generator in the center of the room. A woman in oil-stained coveralls, her hair pulled back in a tight, practical knot, was welding a joint with surgical precision. She didn't look up. You're tracking grime on my floor, Vale, she said. Her voice filtered through her welding mask. Good to see you too, Tamsin. Aiden replied. The woman, Tamsin Rook, flipped her mask up. Her face was sharp, intelligent, and currently fixed in a look of profound annoyance. And you brought a date, a tall one, Silthari Diplomatic Corps, by the sash. Did you scrape her off your boot on the way in? This is Attaché Nyara Tesh, Aiden said. She's the loose end I mentioned. I am nobody's loose end, Nyara stated. Her composure, absolute. Tamsin's eyes raked over Nyara, then back to Aiden. The whole station is screaming about some dual-wielding human terrorist. I had a 5-credit bet it was you. Now, pay up. Tamsin, we have a situation, Aiden said, ignoring the bet. You are a situation, Vale. Tamsin powered down her torch and tossed it onto a workbench. Dorn's goons are sweeping the station level by level. You tripped the Imperial Heresy Act. That's not a parking ticket. That's a disintegrate your ship and salt the vacuum warrant. We know, Aiden said. We need your help. We need to know what we're really fighting. Tamsin snorted. You're fighting the Aegis Index. You're fighting 50,000 years of dogma. You're fighting a religion with guns. What more do you need to know? The Aegis Index is not a religion, Nyara interjected, stepping forward. It is the most advanced predictive combat algorithm in existence. It analyzes millennia of combat data to determine the single, most effective tactical solution for any given engagement. It is the foundation of the Imperial military and the Silthari Alliance. Tamsin burst out laughing. It was a short, sharp, humorless sound. Oh, honey, you really drank the Kool-Aid. It's not predictive. It's prescriptive. She slammed a fist onto her console. A holographic display shimmered to life. Look, Tamsin said, her fingers flying across the interface, pulling up complex data streams. The Empire says the Index analyzes all data. That's a lie. The index analyzes curated data. It's an algorithm, and algorithms have bias. And this one has the mother of all biases. She isolated a string of code. The amateur strategist who built this thing started with the assumption that one mind, one weapon, was superior. So, any data that contradicted that, any anomaly, any freak victory by some two-sworded backwater mercenary, it gets tagged. She highlighted a function. Function. Discard anomaly. Dual intent. It doesn't analyze the data, Tamsin said, stabbing the function with her finger. It deletes it. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The index says dual-wielding is inefficient because it refuses to learn from anyone who is efficient at it. It's not a combat doctrine. It's a filter bubble. A 50,000-year-old filter bubble. Aiden stared at the code. So when I fought, it couldn't predict me, because its own code blinded it. You didn't just break the rules, Vale. Tamsin grinned. You broke the math. You're a statistical impossibility. And the Empress hates that. This is... Niara was staring at the code, her multifocal eyes processing the information at a speed Aiden could barely fathom. This is fraud, on a galactic scale. Which brings us to Dorn, Tamsin said, her tone suddenly serious. She flicked the display to a security feed. Ravel Dorn, his face a mask of cold fury, was directing his troops from the Kestrel Spire Command Center. He had seized control of the station. The Empress invited you to Heliarch, Vale. She wants to make an example of you. She wants to put you in her arena and prove her doctrine is right by having her champion kill you in a standardized, single-glaive fight. But Dorn doesn't want that, Aiden finished, his eyes locked on the image of the commander. If I get to Heliarch, I get to talk. I get to tell the galaxy he was the butcher of Cygnus 9. He can't risk that. He needs to silence me and our diplomatic witness. Tamsin nodded. He's not just hunting you anymore. He's actively disobeying the spirit of the Empress's command. He's cleaning house. Which means we're trapped on a station that is actively trying to kill us. So, what's the play? Aiden asked. The play, Tamsin said, is that we prove it. We prove the index is a lie. We can't just say it. We need the original source code, the unfiltered logs. We need the proof that Malith knows she's lying. That data would be on Heliarch, in the Imperial Citadel, Niara said. That is impossible. True, Tamsin conceded. But the Kestrel Spire peripheral data vault syncs with the Citadel every hour. It's a mirror cache. And because I built the station's firewall, I know it has a 5-minute data purgatory buffer before it syncs. All the raw, unfiltered data passes through there. If we can get in, I can isolate the source code and find the original directive. Where is it? Aiden asked. Sub-level 12, Central Core, Tamsin said. It's a high-security zone, Aiden nodded. He'll expect us to try and flee the station. He won't expect us to go deeper in, toward the most secure part of it. It's a 2-person job, Tamsin said. 1 to crack the vault, 1 to watch the door. 3, Niara said. Aiden and Tamsin looked at her. You need a targeter, Niara said. My eyes see across multiple focal planes. I can track angles and trajectories you cannot. I can see the sniper on the gantry, and the trooper in the ventilation shaft at the same time. I will be your lookout. Tamsin raised an eyebrow. A diplomat who knows what a targeter is. Color me impressed. Fine. 3 people. We're still missing the 4th part of the equation. Which is, Aiden asked. A wall, Tamsin said. The vault's security doors are quantum locked. Even I'll need at least 30 seconds. Dorn's men won't give us 30 seconds. We need someone to absorb their displeasure. A heavy, resonant dual heartbeat sound came from the shadows of the workshop. A massive figure detached himself from the darkness. He was a Grell, easily 8 feet tall, his skin the color of hammered iron, his features broad and stoic. He wore heavy, piecemeal armor, and his two hearts, a primary and a secondary, beat an asynchronous, powerful rhythm. Thump thump. Thump thump. This, Tamsin said with a wave, is Cathur. He's Grell. 2 hearts, stamina for days, and a hide that can stop most low-yield plasma. He handles my physical negotiations. Cathur looked at Aiden, then at Niara. He gave a short, respectful nod. The technician warrior, and the Silthari Shadow Eye. Tamsin said you would come. We move in 5 minutes, Aiden said, accepting the new additions without question. Tamsin, I need weapons. Something balanced. Tamsin tossed him a pair of 18-inch, reinforced carbon steel alignment rods from her workbench. They were heavy, solid, and utterly non-reflective. Don't break my tools, Vale. Aiden gripped them, one in each hand. They felt right. As Tamsin and Cathur prepared their gear, Niara approached Aiden in the relative quiet of an alcove. You called Ravel Dorn, the butcher of Cygnus 9, she said, her voice low. Aiden's grip on the rods tightened. He stared at the metal wall, but he was seeing fire. Cygnus 9 was a human colony, agricultural, neutral. It was my home. He paused, the words tasting like ash. 6 years ago, Dorn's unit, the Cinder Phoenix, was dispatched to restore Imperial compliance. There was no resistance. We weren't warriors. We were farmers, engineers. He gave the order, Aiden whispered. Sterilization protocol. He burned it. He burned it all. I was off-world, on a training exercise. I was the only one who made it out. He wasn't just following orders. He was enjoying it. That insignia he wears. He took it from the colony's central monument after he burned it. Niara's multifocal eyes, usually in constant, analytical motion, stilled, every facet focused on his face, absorbing his pain, his rage. Aiden, she said softly. I don't, he said, cutting her off. I don't need sympathy. I need this to end. He turned to her. Now it's your turn. You weren't in that filtration hub by accident. Recalcitrant docking bay. You're a better liar than that, Your Excellency. But not by much. Niara Tesh held his gaze. You are correct. I am a diplomatic attaché. But my secondary mission, my real mission, was to assess the operational irregularities on Kestrel Spire. The Empire noted anomalous energy signatures, supply discrepancies. They suspected human engineers of hoarding restricted technology. They meant Tamsin, Aiden realized. And perhaps you. My job was to observe and report, to confirm if Kestrel Spire's human element was becoming unreliable. So, what's your report? Aiden asked, his voice hard. My report, she said, her voice unwavering, is that my government's alliance is built on a foundation of lies. The Silthari value truth above all. The Aegis Index, the bedrock of our shared defense, is a fraud. I will not be party to it. That's a dangerous path, Niara, Aiden said, violating your mandate. I am a diplomat, she replied, a faint, sharp smile touching her lips. I am merely renegotiating my terms. The vault was deep in the station's quietest sector. The hum of the core was a low vibration in their feet. Tamsin led them through a maze of conduits, bypassing the main checkpoints. They reached a blast door marked Imperial Data Vault, Level 7 cleared. Personnel only. 4 guards, standard patrol, Niara whispered, her eyes fixed on the corridor ahead. They are 2 junctions away, moving toward us. We have perhaps 1 minute. Cathur, Aiden said. The Grell nodded. 30 seconds. I will provide them. Cathur stepped out into the corridor, planting himself directly in front of the vault door. He slammed his massive fist into the wall, the sound booming through the metal. "Tamsin, now," Aiden ordered. Tamsin ran to the console, jacking her interface into the port. "Quantum lock. I'm starting the sequence." "This is going to be loud," shouts echoed from the junction. The 4 guards rounded the corner and skidded to a halt at the sight of the massive grell. "Halt, identify!" Kether merely spread his arms, blocking the door completely. He carried a heavy kinetic absorption shield, which he now activated. The guards opened fire. Plasma bolts splashed against the shield, the energy dissipating across its surface. Kether grunted, his 2 hearts thumping, holding his ground as the sheer kinetic force pushed him back an inch. "Complication," Nyara hissed from the junction. "They're here, Dorn's elite, 6 of them, flanking from the upper gantry and the service tunnel behind us." "Tamsin," Aiden snapped. "I'm decrypting, don't rush the artist," Tamsin yelled, her fingers a blur. Aiden looked at Nyara. "Call them." He took his stance, the 2 carbon steel rods held in a loose, ready grip. "Upper gantry, 40 meters," Nyara called out, her eyes flickering. "He's sighting Tamsin. His rifle's recycle rate is 0.8 seconds. He'll fire in 3, 2. Aiden didn't wait. He hurled one of the heavy rods end over end. It wasn't a kill shot. It was a disruption. The rod clanged violently off the gantry railing, shattering the sniper's aim. The plasma shot went wide, scoring the ceiling. "Corridor." 3 of them, closing fast. Nyara said. Aiden met them. The elite guards moved fast, single-mindedly, their glaives held in the perfect Aegis-approved stance. "Leader, his left knee joint," Nyara called. "It has a microfracture. 2 seconds." Aiden trusted her. He didn't look. He spun into the attack. His right rod came up in a high block, deflecting the leader's glaive with a scream of metal. His left rod, moving independently, struck low, a brutal, precise jab aimed exactly where Nyara had indicated. The guard screamed as his knee joint shattered. He collapsed. The other 2 faltered, their predictive algorithm failing. He should not have attacked low. He should have riposted. Aiden gave them no time. Right hand blocked, left hand struck, right hand feinted, left hand disarmed. It was Cygnus 9, all over again. But this time, he wasn't running. "I'm in," Tamsin roared. The vault door hissed open. "Cathor in!" Aiden yelled. The grell absorbed one last volley and stumbled backward through the threshold. Aiden and Nyara dove in after him as Tamsin slammed the emergency close button. The blast door sealed, followed by the heavy thud of plasma fire impacting its outer shell. They were inside. The vault was cold, silent, and filled with towering columns of light. "That door won't hold for more than 5 minutes," Cathor rumbled, his breathing already steadying. "I only need 2, Tamsin said, already at the central console. Looking for the source code. Filtering for discard protocols. Filtering for Dual-Wield. Humanity." Aiden and Nyara stood guard by the door, listening to the sizzle of plasma cutters. "Tamsin," Aiden urged. "Got it." "Oh, you magnificent, arrogant bitch." Tamsin's voice was filled with grudging admiration. "What?" "She didn't just bias the algorithm," Tamsin said. "She hard-coded an exception, a direct prohibition. She isolated a single data packet, sealed with the highest level of Imperial encryption. Tamsin, with a flurry of commands, cracked it open. On the screen, a formal document resolved. Imperial Edict 749 Alpha, the dual-wielding prohibition. It was signed by Empress Malith Karzara. Aiden frowned. "Look at the date. This edict. It's only 40 years old." "Exactly," Tamsin said. "The doctrine is 50,000 years old. But this prohibition edict is recent. She must have reissued it, strengthened it." Tamsin's fingers flew. Why 40 years ago it's linked to an event. The Varos Uprising. All files are classified. Red level. I can't open them from here. We have the edict, Aiden said. That's the proof. Let's go. Wait, Nyara said. She was staring at the screen, her face pale. What is it? The Silthari Alliance Pact, Nyara said, her voice barely a whisper. Article 4, Section 2. Our treaty with the Empire is contingent upon the objective and total data integrity of the Aegis Index. It is the basis for our shared defense strategy. Aiden saw it instantly. If you show this, your treaty is void. Nyara nodded, her amethyst eyes wide with the implications. The Empire will classify Silthos as a rogue state. They will see us as a threat. They will invade. Well, Tamsin muttered, this just got infinitely more complicated. And we have about 90 seconds until Dorn's men cut through that door. Aiden looked at Nyara. He did not give an order. He did not make a demand. He waited. Nyara Tesh, diplomat of the Silthari, took a deep breath. Her multifocal eyes, which had been flickering between Aiden, the door, and the screen, suddenly settled, firm and resolute. Download the edict, Tamsin, she commanded. Download all of it. The plasma cutter on the far side of the vault door whined, reaching a near-silent, terrifying pitch. The metal glowed a dull, cherry red in a perfect, expanding circle. Door integrity at 10%, Tamsin Rook said. Her voice strained as she yanked the data puck from the console. 5 seconds, tops. Back exit, Aiden ordered. The back exit is a sanitation slurry duct, Tamsin protested. It's not that door. Move. Aiden shoved them toward a small, unmarked hatch in the floor. Cathur, bleeding from a dozen shallow plasma scores on his shield arm, ripped the grate open with one hand. Go, Aiden yelled. Nyara dropped into the darkness without hesitation. Tamsin followed, clutching her console. Cathur eased his massive frame in. Aiden went last, sealing the hatch just as the main vault door exploded inward, flooding the room with smoke and the blue-white light of plasma fire. They half ran, half slid through the ductwork. The stench of ozone and industrial waste thick in their throats. They emerged 2 levels down, in a derelict cargo bay that hadn't seen a shipment in years. My ship, Tamsin panted. The Quicksilver is in Auxiliary Hangar 94. It's an old freighter, but it's clean, shielded, and faster than it looks. Dorn will have all hangars locked down, Aiden said, scanning the shadows. Not this one, Tamsin said, a rare, vicious grin touching her lips. Hangar 94 is listed on the station manifest as catastrophic decompression hazard. I listed it myself 3 years ago. No one goes near it. They moved through the station's forgotten veins. A ghost crew of 3 humans and 2 aliens. Cathur's dual hearts beat a heavy, laboring rhythm, and he was leaving a trail of dark, iron-rich Grell blood. You're wounded, Nyara observed, her voice low. It is superficial, Cathur rumbled, though his massive shoulders were slumped. The Grell endure. Hangar 94 was just as Tamsin had described, dark, cold, and sealed with physical lockdown bolts and holographic warning vacuum signs. Tamsin bypassed them all with a series of codes, and the heavy doors groaned open. The Quicksilver was ugly, a mismatch of parts that looked like it had been assembled from a scrap heap. But Aiden noted the oversized, clearly illegal thruster modifications. It would fly. The hangar was quiet, too quiet. Tamsin, get the ramp down, Aiden ordered, his voice dropping. He and Nyara fanned out, taking cover behind stacked, empty cargo containers. Cathur stood guard at the door, his heavy shield raised. Ramps deploying, Tamsin called from the ship's external console. Just need 10 seconds to. The hangar lights snapped on, blindingly bright. 10 seconds, a voice echoed from the gantries above. You do love your dramatic timing. Tamsin. Ravel Dorn stepped into the light, flanked by a full fire team of his Cinder Phoenix shock troops. They were not aiming at the ship. They were aiming at the ramp. It was a good plan, Dorn continued, his voice amplified, dripping with condescending praise. Go deep, steal the data. All very heroic. But you left a messy trail. He means me, Cathur growled, his blood pooling at his feet. The Grell always bleed, Dorn scoffed. Now, Technician Vale, and Attaché Tesh, you can come out. The Empress wants you alive, though I cannot imagine why. What's the play, Dorn? Aiden called out, his voice steady. You kill us here. You disobey a direct order from your Empress. That's treason, even for you. Oh, I am not here to disobey. Vale, Dorn replied. I am here to amend the situation. The Empress wants you. She said nothing about your accomplices. She wants the dual-wielding man. But this tech witch, he pointed at Tamsin. She's a loose end, an embarrassment. He's lying, Niara whispered, her eyes flickering, analyzing every soldier. He's trying to separate us. I know, Aiden whispered back. Tamsin ramps open, get inside, Aiden shouted. Aiden, no, Tamsin yelled back. Go, Cathur turned, realizing the plan. He moved to provide Tamsin with cover, to become a wall of iron and muscle between her and Dorn's men. It was the opening Dorn was waiting for. Now, Dorn commanded. It wasn't plasma fire. It was a high-yield kinetic pulse rifle, aimed not at Tamsin, but at Cathur. The blast, a silent ripple of force, struck the Grell warrior square in the chest. It was designed to shatter tanks. Cathur's heavy armor cracked. He stumbled, his primary heart stopping from the sheer traumatic impact. He fell to one knee, the sound of his armored leg hitting the deck echoing like a gunshot. Cathur! Tamsin screamed, running toward him. It's a trap! Aiden roared, breaking cover. Dorn smiled. Fire the net! From the gantries, a specialized capture net launched. It wasn't aimed at Aiden. It enveloped Tamsin, discharging a high-voltage, paralytic shock. She collapsed instantly, her body convulsing. The hacker is ours, Dorn announced. Vale, you have a choice. Surrender now, or watch your diplomat friend die. His soldiers raised their rifles, every one of them centering on Niara. Aiden froze. He was caught. Save Tamsin, save Niara. He couldn't do both. Cathur roared, running on his secondary heart, fueled by a primal Grell rage. He rose to his feet. He threw his kinetic shield like a discus. It spun through the air, smashing into the two soldiers nearest Tamsin. It was the opening Aiden needed. Not to attack, to run. Niara grabbed the cargo lifter. Now, he yelled. He ran to Cathur. The giant was swaying, his one working heart hammering. Aiden got under his arm, taking the massive weight. The engineer, Cathur gurgled, blood on his lips. Is gone, Aiden grunted, pulling him toward the cargo lifter, a small, open-platform utility vehicle. Niara was already at the controls. Aiden heaved Cathur onto the platform and jumped on after him. Kill the Grell! Take the diplomat! Dorn shrieked, his composure finally breaking. Niara slammed the accelerator. The lifter shot out of the hangar, plasma fire searing the air where they had been. They plunged into a service corridor. Dorn's men in pursuit. Tamsin's captured form being dragged back toward the Imperial troops. They didn't stop until they were deep in the station's abandoned lower levels. Finally, crashing the lifter into a derelict docking bay that held a single, forgotten ship, an interstellar freighter, the Vagabond, marked for scrap. Aiden dragged Cathur aboard. The ship was cold, its power core on minimum. Niara forced the ramp shut, the metal groaning in protest. They were safe. For now. And they had failed. Cathur lay on the metal deck of the cargo hold. His breathing was shallow. Aiden ripped open the shattered chest plate. The Grell's secondary heart was beating frantically, a desperate, rapid rhythm, but the primary heart was still. "He's dying," Aiden said, his voice hollow. He had traded one friend for another. This is my fault," Aiden whispered, sitting back against the cold bulkhead. "I should have stayed a technician. I should have kept my head down." He looked at Niara, her perfect diplomatic composure finally showing cracks. Her hands were shaking. "He's using her. Niara. He'll torture her. To find out what we know. To find me. And when he's done with her, he'll hunt you. He'll kill you just for standing next to me. I should have just run. I should be hiding you. Hiding is what you have been doing for 6 years. Aiden," Niara said, her voice sharp, cutting through his guilt. She was pressing a thermal sealant against Cathur's wound. "Hiding did not save your colony. Hiding did not stop Dorn. It only postponed this day." "And what now?" Aiden shot back. "We have the data, but no one to give it to. We have a dying Grell and a—" His voice trailed off as the freighter's proximity alert chirped. A ship was docking. Aiden grabbed his steel rods. He and Niara took positions by the ramp. The docking clamps engaged. The ramp's external monitor flickered to life, showing not Dorn's troops, but a single, panicked-looking Rhodian merchant. Aiden opened the comm. "You're in a restricted bay. State your business." "Please help me," the Rhodian squeaked. "Imperial troops. They are reprocessing the station, taking anyone who... You saved my son. In the concourse I saw where you ran, I brought... this. They are broadcasting it. Everywhere." The Rhodian held up a data puck. Niara activated the ship's external receiver. It wasn't a message. It was a live feed from the Kestrel Spire command center, now fully under Dorn's control. Ravel Dorn stood in the center of the frame, proud and imperious. Tamsin Rook was kneeling before him, conscious but bound, her face bruised. "The terrorist elements have been purged," Dorn announced. "The station is secure. The heretical hacker, Tamsin Rook, has been apprehended. She will be taken to Heliarch for a public judgment." Dorn smiled, a victor's smile. He tapped his chest, right over his heart, drawing the camera's attention. "Let this be a lesson. Imperial order always prevails." The camera zoomed in. It was a clear, high-definition image. Welded to the scarred black armor of his chestplate was the Cinder Phoenix insignia. It gleamed under the command center lights, a trophy of a world burned to ash. Aiden watched, his breathing stopping. The vague, half-seen memory from the concourse coalesced into a perfect, searing image. "He's wearing it," Aiden whispered. The despair in his voice was gone, replaced by something cold and terrifyingly clear. "He's wearing my home like a prize." Aiden's desire to hide, to protect, to run, it all burned away. This was no longer about survival. It was about a reckoning, as if summoned by the thought. Niara's personal comm, a slim Silthari device, chimed. It was a high-priority diplomatic recall. She opened the encrypted file. A stern, holographic face of a Silthari elder appeared. "Attaché Tesh, your mandate is revoked. You are consorting with a known human terrorist, in violation of our treaty with the Amethyr Empire. You are ordered to disavow the human Aiden Vale and return to the embassy on Tri-Prime immediately. Failure to comply will result in your excommunication." Niara Tesh looked at the elder. She looked at the dying Cathur. She looked at Aiden, whose face was a mask of cold, focused rage. She did not say a word. She simply terminated the connection, the encrypted channel collapsing in on itself. Aiden looked at her. "You just burned your whole life." "My life was built on a comfortable lie," she replied, her voice steady. I prefer an uncomfortable truth. She knelt beside Cathur, reactivating the medical scanner. This freighter's medbay is ancient, but it has a high-yield defibrillator. If his secondary heart can take the strain, we might be able to shock the primary one back into rhythm. She looked up at Aiden, her multifocal eyes locking with his. We save our friend. We save Tamsin. And then, Aiden asked, his voice quiet. And then we fix the galaxy. She offered him her hand. He took it. The pact was sealed. Before they could move, the Imperial crest slammed onto the monitor, overriding Dorn's feed. Empress Malith Karzara appeared, and this time, she did not look pleased. Her face was cold, her voice tight with controlled fury. The chaos on Kestrel Spire, she began, her voice resonating across the galactic network, has revealed a deep sickness within the unaligned human colonies. A sickness of non-compliance, of chaos, she gestured, and the grainy footage of Aiden fighting in the concourse played beside her. This man, this anomaly, has become a symbol for the scattered and the chaotic. He believes his momentary victory against an unprepared patrol is proof of his method. She looked directly into the camera. We do not deal in symbols. We deal in standards. But we are a merciful empress. We will offer this broken species a final path to integration. A new image appeared, the massive standardization arena on Heliarch. Aiden Vale, you are formally challenged, not hunted, not captured. You will come to Heliarch and face our chosen champion in the arena. In front of the entire galaxy, you will prove your method. If you win, she said, letting the promise hang in the air. Your species will be reevaluated. Their status, their rights, their technology, all will be reconsidered. But if you fail, her voice dropped, becoming as cold and hard as diamond. All remaining human territories will be reclassified, their civil status revoked, their resources forfeit. They will be designated wards of the Empire, for their own protection. We will standardize them, as one corrects a wayward child. The broadcast ended. Aiden stared at the screen. She had done it. She had checkmated him. He couldn't run. He couldn't hide. She had taken his personal war and made the entire human race hostage to it. She's a monster, Niara breathed. No, Aiden said. She's a politician. And she just called my bluff. He turned. First, Cathur. Then, I need to train. It took 2 agonizing hours. Using the freighter's ancient defibrillator, they shocked the Grell's massive primary heart. The ship's lights dimmed, the core almost failing. Cathur's body convulsed. And then the steady, asynchronous thump-thump returned. He was alive. Weak, unconscious, but alive. Aiden left Niara to watch over him and found the freighter's training deck. It was little more than a cargo bay with a single, battered, 3-armed training drone. He held his 2 steel rods. What he had done in the concourse was instinct, a memory of old training. To face a champion in the arena, he needed more. He needed art. He activated the drone. Mode Standard Imperial, single glaive. The drone attacked, its movements perfect, efficient, and utterly predictable. Aiden met it, but he didn't fight it. He danced with it. He began to separate his mind. Hemispheric independence. His right hand, holding the longer rod, became his shield. It moved in fluid, circular, defensive patterns, deflecting the drone's attacks, redirecting its energy. His left hand, holding the shorter rod, became his spear. It stayed coiled by his chest, striking out in sudden, linear, unpredictable jabs. It struck at the drone's joints, its sensors, its weapon hilt. Right hand, circles. Left hand, lines. Right hand, defense. Left hand, offense. 2 hands, 2 tasks, 1 mind. The drone's synthesized voice crackled. Pattern. Pattern unrecognized. conflict and tactical prognosis. You're not supposed to recognize it, Aiden muttered, sweat pouring down his face. He shifted his style, chaos navigation. He stopped blocking entirely. He let the drone attack, and he simply wasn't there. He moved around the drone's attack patterns, flowing into the empty spaces its algorithm told it were inefficient. He forced the drone to constantly recalculate, to reset its targeting, its logic matrix screaming. "You're trying to predict me, aren't you?" Aiden panted, spinning inside the drone's attack range. "Go on. Predict which hand I like better. I'll wait." The drone froze, its arms locked, its internal processor caught in a logic loop. Tactical, tactical, tactical failure. It powered down. Aiden leaned against the wall, his chest heaving. He looked at his hands. The rod's heavy. He had the technique, but his mind was still at war. Am I doing this for justice, he thought? Or am I just a tool for my own rage? Am I any different from Dorn? You are afraid. He turned. Nyara was standing in the doorway, watching him. I am, he admitted, not of the arena, of this feeling, this anger. It's what Dorn used. It's what Malith uses. She uses anger to control, Nyara said, stepping toward him. You use it to focus. She paused. I am afraid, too. Of what that I'll lose. No, she said, her voice soft. I am afraid that this feeling between us will make one of us hesitate, that I will call for a retreat when you need to advance, or that you will hold back a killing blow to protect me. I am afraid that our connection will compromise the mission. Aiden stepped closer, close enough to see the exhaustion in her multifaceted eyes. It won't make me hesitate, he said. It's the only thing that makes sense. It's not a compromise. It's the mission. He knew what he had to do. Malith wanted a show. Dorn wanted a kill. Tamsin and the human colonies were the price. He walked to the ship's communication console. He activated the emergency broadcast beacon, routing it through the chain of anonymous proxies Tamsin had built, aiming it straight at the Imperial newsfeed. His face appeared on the screen, projected to the galaxy. He was tired. He was scarred. He was not wearing a uniform, but his eyes were clear. Empress Malith, he said, his voice raw. You want a show. You want to standardize me. You put my people on the line to force my hand. He leaned into the camera, letting billions of citizens from 1,000 species see him. I accept your invitation to Heliarch. He paused, letting the words sink in. A slow, cold, defiant smile spread across his face. I'm coming, and I'm smiling. The standardization arena on Heliarch was a scar of polished white marble carved into the planet's surface, vast enough to hold a city. Today, it held an audience of billions, with trillions more watching on the broadcast feeds. They were here to see a ghost. Aiden Vale stood alone on the sun-scorched sand. He wore simple, unarmored fatigues. He carried no weapons. He looked small and intensely human against the backdrop of imperial grandeur. He could feel the weight of those billions of eyes, a physical pressure on his skin. He heard the murmur, the unified whisper of 1,000 different species, all focused on the anomaly. High above, in the imperial box, Empress Malith Karzahra rose. Her image was magnified by holographic projectors, making her a goddess floating above the Colosseum. Her voice, amplified by the same system, was sharp and clear, a scalpel intended to dissect him. Behold, citizens of the Empire, she began. The crowd hushed. Behold the human, Aiden Vale, a creature of chaos, an entity who believes that passion is a substitute for discipline, who believes that dividing the mind is a strength, rather than a fatal flaw. Aiden kept his eyes level, his breathing slow and measured. He tuned out her words, focusing on the thrum of his own pulse. For 50,000 years, Malith continued, her voice dripping with condescending pity. The Aegis Index has protected you. It has defined the singular, perfect path to victory. It is the wall against which chaos breaks. Today, this human claims his undisciplined, emotional flailing is superior to that perfection. She leaned forward, her massive holographic face seeming to peer directly into his. He is wrong. He is an error, and errors must be corrected. She smiled, a gesture of absolute, cold certainty. We have taught the galaxy this truth time and time again. No species can dual-wield. Aiden let out his breath. She's nervous, he realized. This is too much theater. She's not just proving a point. She's suppressing a doubt. Let the correction begin, the Empress declared. A gate grated open at the far end of the arena. From the shadows, the champion emerged. It was not a man. It was Glacier Prime. It stood 9 feet tall, a horrifying, beautiful synthesis of gleaming amethyr steel and vat-grown muscle. Its left arm was a piston-driven claw. Its right arm, a human-like limb of woven synthetic fibers. It was a cyborg, but its mind was not its own. It was a puppet, its every microsecond movement dictated by the Aegis Index. It was the physical manifestation of the Empire's doctrine. It carried one weapon, a 10-foot, single-bladed Imperial energy glaive. It moved onto the sand with a liquid grace that was utterly, terrifyingly perfect. A weapons rack ascended from the sand at Aiden's feet. It held dozens of standard-issue Imperial weapons, glaives, vibrospears, kinetic shields, all designed for a single hand, a single purpose. The challenger may arm himself according to Imperial standard. The announcer's voice boomed. Aiden ignored the rack. I will not, he called out, his voice surprisingly clear in the sudden silence. Malith's hologram narrowed its eyes. The challenger will arm himself. I did not bring my tools, Aiden said. I will need replacements. He walked to the rack, picked up a standard vibrosword, and jammed it into the sand. He picked up a shorter, heavier kinetic hammer and did the same. I need a forge. A spark of annoyance crossed Malith's face. This is not a workshop. Then it is not a test, Aiden countered. For a long, tense moment, the Empress stared at him. Finally, she gave a short, sharp nod. Give him his toys. Let his failure be complete. A high-energy forge unit rose from the floor. Aiden grabbed his 2 chosen weapons. He cut the vibrosword down, shortening the blade to just under 3 feet, reinforcing the hilt. He reshaped the kinetic hammer, flattening its head, sharpening one edge until it resembled a heavy, short-bladed cleaver, barely 1.5 feet in length. He finished in under 2 minutes. The crowd murmured. The weapons were crude, ugly, and, most importantly, they were not a pair. One was a long, thin blade. The other was a short, heavy axe. They were asymmetrical. Aiden took his stance, the long blade in his right hand, the short blade in his left. Glacier Prime attacked. The cyborg moved like physics itself. It crossed the 50 yards between them in 3 perfect bounds. Its glaive raised for a textbook perfect overhead strike, calculated by the Aegis Index to cleave a human in 2. Aiden did not meet the blow. He did not block. He shifted. He did not move like a warrior. He moved like a musician. His feet slid across the sand in a broken rhythm. Not a march. His long blade came up, not to stop the glaive, but to ride it. His right hand, holding the sword, was his rhythm section. It played defense, moving in flowing, circular patterns. It deflected, parried, and redirected Glacier's predictable, powerful strikes. It was the constant, steady beat. His left hand, holding the short axe, was his melody. It stayed coiled by his chest, moving in sharp, linear, syncopated attacks. Glacier struck. Aiden's right hand deflected. Glacier compensated. Aiden's left hand jabbed out, striking the cyborg's elbow joint. Thump bap, thump bap. The Aegis Index, calculating Glacier's every move, faltered. Its predictive algorithm was based on a singular opponent. It saw the defensive circle of the right hand and calculated a riposte. But it could not account for the offensive line of the left. It was receiving two contradictory sets of data from one target. Glacier struck again, a wide horizontal sweep. Aiden's right hand dropped, flowing under the attack. His left hand simultaneously thrust upward, the axe blade scoring a line across the cyborg's optical sensor. Thump bap, bap. Glacier Prime stopped. It stood perfectly still for 1.3 seconds. Its processor was trapped in a recursive loop. It was trying to solve an equation that had no answer. He attacks while defending. He defends while attacking. This is not possible. Recalculate. Error. Error. The system is lagging, Nyara Tesh whispered from the diplomatic gallery. She was disguised, her Silthari features hidden by a full-face veil. A guest of a minor delegation Tamsin's contacts had blackmailed. She watched, her multifocal eyes seeing not a fight, but a debate. Aiden was arguing with the Index, and he was winning. Aiden changed his breathing. He inverted his rhythm. His left hand became the defense, its short, heavy blade blocking the glaive with brutal, jarring stops. His right hand became the offense, the long blade flashing out, a blur of silver. Glacier Prime's head twitched. The algorithm broke. For half a second, the cyborg stood frozen. Its programming crashed. Aiden stepped in. He did not aim for the throat. He did not aim for the organic heart. His long blade slapped the flat of the cyborg's glaive, locking it. His short axe came down on Glacier's synthetic wrist, not with the blade, but with the heavy, flat pommel. There was a wet, mechanical snap. The cyborg's hand opened. The Imperial glaive clattered onto the sand. Aiden Vale stepped back, lowering his weapons. The fight was over. Glacier Prime, disarmed and useless. Its primary function failed, simply stood there, twitching. Silence. The entire arena, billions of souls, held its breath. Aiden had not killed. He had not brutalized. He had disassembled. He had proven the Index wrong. And by sparing his foe, he had proven his own code superior. High in her box, Malith Karzara was pale with fury. This was not the plan. This was not correction. This was humiliation. "You see," Aiden called out, his voice echoing in the stunned silence. "It's just a predictable, single-minded machine. You told it the galaxy was flat, and it believed you." "The demonstration is not over," Malith's voice snapped, sharp and brittle. "The anomaly has defeated a drone. Let him now face a soldier." The crowd roared, confused. This was not protocol. The standardization arena was one-on-one. A second gate opened. Aiden turned. His blood, which had been singing with the rhythm of the fight, turned to ice. Commander Ravel Dorn strode onto the sand. He wore the black, scarred armor of the Cinder Phoenix. He carried his own personal energy glaive, its blade humming with a malevolent, dark red energy. He was not a champion. He was not a soldier. He was a butcher. Dorn did not look at the Empress. He did not salute the crowd. His eyes were locked on Aiden. He walked to the center of the arena, stopping 20 feet from him. Slowly, deliberately, he raised his gauntlet and tapped the tarnished Cinder Phoenix insignia welded to his chest plate, the symbol of Cygnus Nine's ashes. He smiled. "The ghost," he spat. "I should have known. I should have killed you myself when you were a child." The universe compressed. The billions of spectators, the Empress, the arena. It all vanished. There was only the sand, the smell of ozone, and the man who had burned his world. The musician was gone. The cold, precise art of the last fight evaporated. Aiden Vale's rage, the cold, buried core of him, detonated. He didn't wait. He attacked. He charged. Both blades raised, a human missile of pure, unadulterated fury. Dorn was ready. He was a veteran. He met Aiden's charge with his own, his single, heavy glaive swinging, expecting to batter aside the smaller, mismatched weapons. The sound of their impact was a scream. This was not a dance. This was a war. Aiden's blades were a blur, a storm of motion. He was no longer separating his hands. He was using them as one. A torrent of strikes, blocks, and feints, all moving faster than a single weapon could possibly counter. Clang, sizzle, hiss. Dorn was good. He was a master of the Aegis style. He blocked, pivoted, and thrust, his single weapon a wall of red energy. He was fighting a man, but Aiden was fighting a memory. Blade clash. Aiden saw the sky over Cygnus 9 turn red. Dorn grunted, shoving him back. Aiden heard his mother screaming his name. Aiden ducked under a horizontal sweep, his short axe scoring Dorn's armor. Aiden smelled the air crackle, the scent of burning homes, burning fields, burning people. "You watch them burn," Aiden roared, his voice a broken thing. He attacked with a ferocity that bordered on madness. "I built their pyre," Dorn roared back, his face contorted in a mask of sadistic pleasure. "And I will build yours." Dorn was strong. He shoved Aiden back, the heavy glaive pressing both smaller blades aside. He had the reach. He had the power. He was winning the battle of attrition. From the gallery, Niara watched, her heart hammering. She saw Aiden's desperation. She saw the rage consuming his technique. He was losing control. He was becoming the monster Dorn wanted him to be. She saw the opening Dorn was creating, the textbook Aegis maneuver to trap an overextended, emotional opponent. "Aiden," she whispered, her hands clenched. "Your breath, your rhythm. Find your rhythm." As if he had heard her. Aiden suddenly stopped his barrage. He stood still, his chest heaving, his blades low. Dorn paused, confused by the sudden stop. "Tired, ghost, ready to join your family." He lunged, the textbook killing thrust. Aiden did not meet the blade. He stepped inside it. The rage was still there, but it was no longer hot. It was a cold, black star. He had found his rhythm. It was not the elegant beat he used on Glacier. It was a funeral dirge. His long blade, in his right hand, came up under the glaive, deflecting it half an inch. His short blade, in his left hand, came up under Dorn's guard. It was not a killing blow. It was a disarm. Aiden used the short axe to hook Dorn's wrist, then twisted. At the same time, his long blade pressed up, trapping the glaive's haft. Dorn roared as his wrist joint snapped. His gauntleted hand opened. Aiden ripped the glaive from his grip and hurled it, end over end, into the sand. Ravel Dorn stood, weaponless, his arm broken, his chest heaving. He stared in disbelief. He had been defeated. Aiden raised his weapons. The long sword pointed at Dorn's throat. The short axe angled toward his heart. This was it. The moment. 6 years of nightmares. 6 years of fire and ash led to this single second. Niara watched. Her breath caught. She saw the verdict in his eyes. He was going to kill him. Dorn saw it too. He squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for the end. Aiden's arms trembled. The image of the Cinder Phoenix insignia burned in his mind, superimposed over Dorn's terror. He saw the butcher of his people, and he saw Tamsin, captured. He saw Cathur, dying. He saw Niara, who had sacrificed her life for this truth. Justice is greater than revenge. He lowered his blades. The thud of his weapons hitting the sand was the loudest sound in the universe. Ravel Dorn opened his eyes. "No," Aiden said. His voice was quiet, but the arena's amplifiers caught every word, broadcasting it to a stunned galaxy. You don't get to die. Not like this. Not my hand. Aiden turned his back on the defeated, broken commander. He faced the Imperial box. He faced Malith Karzara. He's yours, Aiden called out, his voice raw with a power that had nothing to do with weapons. I won't be your executioner. I want him tried, in public. Let him tell the galaxy, in his own words, why he burned Cygnus 9. Let the Empire see the order you create. He had not just defeated her champion. He had not just defeated her pet monster. He had rejected her entire system. Malith Karzara sat on her throne, her face a perfect mask of glacial fury. She had offered him a sword, and he had returned a mirror, forcing her, and the galaxy, to look. The silence in the standardization arena was a living thing, a vacuum that sucked all sound from the billions of spectators. Aiden Vale stood on the sand, his chest heaving, his makeshift weapons discarded. Ravel Dorn was on his knees, a broken, humiliated figure. And high above, Empress Malith Karzara was perfectly, terrifyingly still. Aiden had not just won. He had refused to play. He had denied her the execution she craved and the martyrdom she could have twisted. He had handed her a living, breathing war criminal and demanded justice, a concept her empire had long ago replaced with order. Take him, Malith's voice finally snapped, brittle as ice. Royal Guards, moving with a noticeable lack of their usual perfect synchronization, advanced onto the sand. They hauled Ravel Dorn to his feet, his face a mask of disbelief and pure, unadulterated hatred. He stared at Aiden as they dragged him away. This is not over, Ghost. You will burn. The human victor, the announcer's voice boomed, trying to regain control of the narrative. Will be escorted to the senatorial annex to await the Empress's judgment on his petition. 2 guards approached Aiden. He offered no resistance, allowing them to escort him from the arena. He was a victor, but he was also a prisoner. As he walked into the cool shadow of the exit tunnel, he glanced up at the diplomatic gallery. The veiled figure he knew was Niara was gone. The senatorial annex was a cavernous hall, all gold leaf and cold marble, where the Empire's allied and vassal worlds convened. It was packed. The events in the arena had sent a shockwave through the political establishment. Aiden was brought to the center of the floor, standing alone, flanked by 4 guards. Malith was on the high throne, a new, smaller, but more formal one. The air was thick with political maneuvering. The human, Aiden Vale, has made an unprecedented request, Malith began, her voice smooth again, burying the fury she had shown. He asks for a public trial for a decorated Imperial commander. Such a thing is irregular. A xylophone ambassador, his chitinous body rigid with protocol, stood. Empress, irregularity is the theme of the day. My government and the Neutral Council are shocked, not only by the humans' victory over the Aegis-guided champion, but by the deviation in the second match. There was no deviation, Malith said, her voice dropping. There was a test Commander Dorn has failed. He will be dealt with internally. No, Aiden's voice rang out. It was a breach of all protocol. He will be dealt with publicly. He is a war criminal. And he is not the only lie you have told. Malith's eyes flashed. You are in no position to make demands. Anomaly. Am I not? Aiden said. You invited me here. You put the galaxy on notice. You wanted to see my method. You have. He turned, addressing the stunned ambassadors. But what of her method? What of an empire that builds its entire military doctrine on a known fraud? The Silthari delegation head, a grim elder whom Niara had warned him about, stood. What is the meaning of this accusation, human? The meaning, Aiden said, is that the Aegis Index is a lie, and I have the proof. That was the signal. High in orbit, hidden in the quicksilver. Tamsin Rook slammed her fist on the console. Showtime, you bastards. She had been extracted from Kestrel Spire by a Silthari Black Ops team, called in by Nyara's emergency diplomatic recall, a move that had cost Nyara her political life. Tamsin had been working ever since, waiting for this moment. She opened a channel. Not to the public broadcast, but to the private, encrypted networks of every single diplomatic delegation in that room. Across the hall, data slates chimed. Ambassadors looked down. Their eyes widened. They were seeing Imperial Edict 749 Alpha, the dual-wielding prohibition. They were seeing the raw data from the Kestrel Spire vault. They were seeing the logs showing the Aegis Index actively, deliberately deleting data that contradicted Malith's chosen doctrine. The Silthari elder stared at his screen, his face turning a shade of pale gray. Article 4, Section 2, he whispered. The treaty. It is void. He looked up at Malith, his voice shaking with a rage that was millennia old. Empress, you have lied to us. Our alliance. Our entire defense strategy. It is built on this, on your fraud. The hall erupted. Ambassadors were on their feet, shouting. The xylophone delegate demanded an immediate, neutral tribunal. The Grell representative roared for the Empress's immediate censure. The allies of the Empire were in open revolt. Malith Karzara's face was no longer a mask. It was pure, distilled fury. She had lost control. She stood, raising her hand. You forget yourselves. You forget where you stand. You dare challenge me. She slammed her fist onto a panel on her throne. You will be silent. A low, subsonic hum filled the air. Aiden felt it in his teeth. The silence grid is active, a computerized voice announced. Every screen in the room went black. Every comlink died. The massive marble doors of the annex boomed shut, sealing them in. This session is closed, Malith declared, her voice now amplified by the room's internal system. The only thing that worked. The delegations of Silthos, Xyloth Prime, and all associated neutral parties are hereby detained for acts of sedition. Royal Guard, seize them. Seize the human. The wall's paneling slid away, revealing hundreds of Royal Guards, their weapons raised. This was not a hearing. It was a purge. Aiden. He heard Nyara's voice. He turned. She was at a side door, her diplomatic veil gone, a plasma pistol in her hand. Beside her, his armor scarred but his stance firm, was Cathur. Took you long enough, Aiden grinned, grabbing a ceremonial glaive from a wall display. The traffic was terrible, Nyara replied, firing 2 precise shots that took out the guards nearest Aiden. We go, Cathur rumbled, and charged, a living battering ram. They plunged into the side corridors, the sounds of chaos and plasma fire erupting behind them. Alarms shrieked. Tamsin, are you seeing this? Aiden yelled into his comm, which Tamsin had shielded. I see it, her voice crackled. The grid is up, it's locking down the whole planet. All broadcasts are dead. She's blinding the galaxy. Aiden, I can't get the data out. Just get us out, Aiden yelled. They rounded a corner and ran straight into a platoon of Cinder Phoenix troops. Cather, block! Aiden yelled. The Grell slammed his body into the corridor, his shield raised, absorbing the volley. Go, go, I will hold them. We're not leaving you, Aiden said. This is my fight, Cathur roared, his 2 hearts hammering. Find the truth, I will find you. Aiden hesitated, but Nyara pulled his arm. He made his choice. Aiden, we must make ours. She pulled him down a different hallway, a maintenance passage, as Cathur's defiant roar echoed behind them, followed by the intense crackle of plasma. They ran, navigating the labyrinth of the Imperial Palace. Tamsin, we're separated from Cathur. We need an exit. Working on it, her voice hissed. But this grid, it's not just a blocker. It's, it's predictive. It's shutting down my exit routes before I can even open them. They burst into a long, arched hallway, this one lined with ancient tapestries. It was empty. Here, Nyara panted, leaning against the wall. This way. It leads to the old shuttle bays. Aiden moved to follow her, but she didn't move. She was looking past him, her multifocal eyes wide. Aiden, she whispered. He turned, standing in the archway behind them, his black armor smoking, his face bruised and swollen with hate, was Ravel Dorn. He was not in chains. He held a simple, 9-inch vibro knife in his hand. The Empress, Dorn sneered, is a fool. She wanted a show. She wanted your submission. I just wanted you dead. Dorn, Aiden said, raising his hands. It's over. Over, Dorn laughed. A ragged, terrible sound. She released me. She activated the grid and opened the cells. She unleashed all her monsters to clean her house. He took a step toward them. I failed to kill you in the arena. I failed to kill you on Kestrel Spire. But I will not fail to take this from you. He didn't lunge at Aiden. He lunged at Nyara. It was too fast. She had her pistol, but he was inside her guard. Aiden roared, but Dorn was already there. He slammed her against the wall, his armored body pinning her. You ruined me, he shrieked, and plunged the knife into her chest, just below the collarbone. Aiden's world went white. He tackled Dorn, his body slamming the commander into the marble floor with bone-shattering force. He ripped the knife from Dorn's hand and raised it, his vision red. Dorn just lay there, laughing. Go on, Ghost. Be the animal I told them you were. Kill me. Kill me. Aiden froze, the blade an inch from Dorn's throat. He heard a gasp. Aiden. He looked. Nyara was sliding down the wall, her hand pressed to her chest. He threw the knife away, scrambling to her side. Nyara, Nyara. He tore at her tunic. He was expecting a fatal wound. He saw the hilt of the knife, but the blade had been stopped. Caught in the glittering, dark fibers of a micro-thin armor, weaved beneath her diplomatic robes. A Silthari bioweave. It had held, but the force of the blow had been immense. The blade had punctured the armor, and she was bleeding, badly, but the knife had been turned, deflected from her heart. My armor, she gasped, her voice faint. Bioweave. It held, mostly. Stay with me, Aiden said, his voice thick, pressing his hand over the wound. He looked back at Dorn. The commander was gone. He had fled into the chaos. He's gone, Aiden whispered, his rage turning to cold fear. He held her. Why did you? You should have run. My first mission, she whispered, her eyes fighting to focus on him. It wasn't Kestrel Spire. That was a cover. What are you talking about? My government, she panted. They knew about Cygnus 9. They knew a human, an anomaly, had survived. My true mission was to assess you, Aiden Vale, to find you, to see if you were a weapon or a threat. Aiden stared at her. All of it on the spire. Our first meeting. I was looking for you, but it changed. I was supposed to report if you were unstable, dangerous. She gave a weak, pained smile. My report said I could not find you. Nyara. I was supposed to choose my duty, she whispered, her hand finding his. But I chose you. The weight of her confession settled on him. A moment of profound, terrifying clarity. This wasn't an alliance of necessity. It was a choice. A bond forged in lies and sealed in blood. Aiden, I've lost Cathor's signal. Tamsin's voice shrieked in his ear. jarring him. Dorn's troops are everywhere. The whole palace is on lockdown and Malith. She's broadcasting, internally. The palace address system crackled to life. Malith's voice, now calm, regal, and utterly dominant, filled the hallway. The seditious elements have been contained. The traitor Aiden Vale and his conspirator, the ex-diplomat Nyara Tesh, have fled justice. But we are a merciful empress. Aiden helped Nyara to her feet, supporting her weight. We offer a final chance. Aiden Vale, come to the Hall of Seven Stars. Come before the ancient throne of the first emperor. Kneel. Admit your chaotic, dual-wielding method is a flaw. Admit the Aegis Index is the one true path. In return, we will grant full amnesty to all remaining human colonies. We will pardon your crimes. Your people will be safe. The unspoken threat was deafening. Refuse, Malith's voice concluded. And the sanctions against the human territories for harboring you will begin at sundown. The broadcast ended. It's a trap, Nyara breathed, leaning heavily on him. She doesn't want you dead, not anymore. She wants your submission. She needs the galaxy to see you kneel, to see the anomaly accept her order. It's a public relations trap. She'll kill me the second I do it, Aiden said. No, Nyara said, her multifocal eyes sharp, despite the pain. She'll let you live. As her pet. Her broken symbol of chaos. Tamed. It's a fate worse than death. She's right, Aiden said, his voice hard. I won't kneel, but I won't assassinate her, either. That's Dorn's way. That's her way. We have to end this. We have to get the truth out. He patched Tamsin back in. Tamsin, the silence grid. You said it was predictive. Yeah. It anticipates standard broadcast protocols and shuts them down. Her voice crackled. Can it anticipate me? There was a pause. What are you? Oh, you magnificent bastard. No. It can't. Your combat style. The rhythm you used, it's asymmetrical. It's statistical chaos. If I modulate the broadcast signal, piggyback it on your chaotic data, I could create a resonance cascade, a fluctuation. It might punch a hole through the grid. What's the catch? Aiden asked, already moving, helping Nyara down the hall. The catch is, I can't do it from orbit. The signal distortion is too high. I need to be at the source. The grid's central projector. I'd have to fly the Quicksilver into the palace. No, Aiden said. Where is the projector? The schematics show it. Oh, hell. It's in the Hall of Seven Stars. It's the ancient core of the palace. It's built directly under her throne. Aiden stopped. He looked at Nyara. She looked at him. The objective was clear. Tamsin, Aiden said. We're going in. We'll get to the projector. You feed us the signal. We'll broadcast the truth from her own throne room. Aiden, the hall will be full of royal guards. It's a suicide run. It's the only run we have, Aiden said. We're on our way. He cut the comm. The sound of magnetic boots echoed from the end of the hall. Dorn's patrols were closing in. He looked at Nyara, at the pain on her face. Can you make it? Nyara Tesh straightened up, pulling her hand away from her wound. She took a deep, shuddering breath. Her plasma pistol was still in her hand. I can, she said, her voice raw but firm. Good, Aiden said, pulling his own captured plasma pistol. Because the Hall of Seven Stars is just ahead. They stood for a half-second, a wounded diplomat and a hunted soldier, at the heart of an empire that wanted them crushed. After this, Aiden said, we'll talk, with our hearts, not with guns. It's a date, Nyara replied, a shadow of her sharp smile returning. They turned, side by side, and advanced toward the throne room. The great brass doors of the Hall of Seven Stars were sealed. Aiden pressed his shoulder against the ancient metal, his muscles straining. Niara, weakened but resolute, added her own weight. With a groan of metal that had not been heard in 1,000 years, the doors gave way, sliding open just enough for them to slip through. They stepped into a cavern of history. The hall was vast, the ceiling lost in shadow, held up by 7 massive pillars of black, star-flecked obsidian. At the far end, elevated on a dais of pure white marble, sat the ancient throne, and on it, surrounded by the crimson-armored elite of her Praetorian Guard, sat Empress Karzara. She was not alone. In the tiered alcoves that lined the hall, the entire diplomatic corps, all the ambassadors and delegates who had been trapped in the senatorial annex, were being held under guard. They were forced witnesses, hostages to this final, desperate gambit. Aiden felt Niara stumble. He caught her, his arm encircling her waist, taking her weight. Her face was pale, her hand pressed tight against the makeshift bandage on her chest. Aiden Vale, Malith's voice echoed, cold and clear, devoid of the panic she had shown earlier. She was back in control. And the failed diplomat, Niara Tesh. You have come. How wonderfully predictable. Aiden ignored her, his eyes scanning the guards. They were not the standard royal guard. These were the Praetorians, the top 1%, warriors whose loyalty was absolute. There were at least 50 of them. This is not a trap, Aiden, Malith said, her voice laced with a predatory calm. It is an offer, an absolution. You have proven you are resilient, a fascinating flaw, but a flaw nonetheless. She gestured to the marble steps before her. Kneel, simply kneel. Renounce the chaos you champion. Acknowledge the perfection of the Aegis. Do this, and your species, your messy, emotional, failed species, will be brought into the fold. They will be safe. Aiden began to walk forward, supporting Niara. They moved onto the central dais, stopping at the foot of the throne. He looked up at her, at the woman who had burned his home, hunted his friends, and held his entire species hostage. We do not kneel, Niara said, her voice a gasp, but it carried in the silent hall. Malith's eyes hardened. You are an anomaly, a statistical error in a perfect system, and you believe you can defy 50,000 years of order. You are just a man, divided, chaotic, and weak. She stood, retrieving a long, glittering scepter of office that rested beside the throne. It hummed with a low, blue light. You are a living contradiction, and you will be corrected. As we have always maintained, no species can dual-wield. Aiden looked at Niara. He saw the pain, but also the unbending iron of her will. He looked back at the Empress. He was unarmed, having dropped his weapons in the hallway to carry Niara. He let go of her, and she stood on her own, defiant. Aiden smiled, that same cold, defiant smile from the broadcast. Watch me. He reached to his side, where a ceremonial stand held the ancient banners of the Amethyr houses. He ripped 2 of them from their poles. They were heavy, weighted, ceremonial spears, tipped with sharpened, leaf-shaped blades. They were not a pair. One was a foot longer than the other. Malith laughed. A short, sharp, ugly sound. You will fight my Praetorians. Here you will fight the Aegis itself. He is not fighting alone, a voice crackled in Aiden's hidden calm. Niara, the throne. The projector is in the central pillar. You have to give me a terminal. Malith pointed the humming scepter at Aiden. Kill him. 4 Praetorian guards moved. They were poetry. They were perfect. Their single glaives moved as one, a wall of energy. They were faster than Dorn, stronger than Glacier, but they were still predictable. Aiden moved. His feet slid on the marble. his new, unbalanced spears a blur. He was not the musician this time. He was the storm. His right hand, with the longer spear, was the wind. It was wide, circular, defensive. His left hand, with the shorter spear, was the lightning. It was fast, linear, striking. He met the four guards. It was a clash of philosophies. Their perfect, singular attacks were shattered by his dual-pronged, chaotic defense. He blocked high, struck low. He parried left, thrust right. He moved between their blows, forcing them to recalculate, to break formation. "To the throne!" he panted at Nyara. Nyara moved. She ran, not at the guards, but to the side. Two Praetorians broke off to intercept her. "Aiden!" she cried. He couldn't get to her. He was pinned by the other two. A plasma bolt, precise and blue, struck the first guard's knee joint. A second struck the other's elbow. They staggered, their armor holding, but their advance on Nyara was broken. Aiden looked. On a high balcony, hidden in the shadows, was Tamsin Rook. She held a long-range pulse rifle, her face a mask of furious concentration. "I do not," Tamsin's voice crackled in his ear. "Appreciate being left in orbit. Now get her to the throne. I will keep them busy." Nyara didn't hesitate. She scrambled up the marble steps. Maleth watched her, her face a mask of contempt. A gnat, flying into the engine. "Aiden, I need 30 seconds, Tamsin yelled, as more guards began firing at her position. Maleth raised her scepter. It was not a weapon. It was a conductor's baton. She pointed it at the guards fighting Aiden, and they changed. They were no longer men. They were puppets, just like Glacier Prime. Their movements became flawless, perfectly synchronized, their limbs moving with unnatural speed. The Aegis Index, channeled directly from the Empress, was controlling them. Aiden was thrown back, battered. He was no longer fighting soldiers. He was fighting the algorithm itself. "You see," Maleth's voice was triumphant. "I am the Aegis, I am the mind, they are the body. You cannot defeat perfection." Aiden was on the defensive, the two spears barely holding against the four-pronged, perfect assault. He was being beaten back, step by step. "Nyara," he yelled. She was at the throne, tearing at a panel. It was sealed. "It is locked, I cannot." A high-pitched shriek filled the air. A side door to the hall, one Aiden had not seen, exploded inward, blasted from its hinges. Ravel Dorn stumbled into the hall, his armor blackened, his face a mask of lunatic rage. He held a live plasma grenade in his hand. "Ghost," he screamed, his eyes locking on Aiden. You will not. I will not be mocked." He charged, not at Aiden, but at the throne. He was going to kill Maleth, Nyara, and Aiden, all in one suicidal blast. "No," Aiden roared, trying to break free of the guards. A massive, iron-gray shape tackled Dorn from the side. Cathur. He was alive. His armor was a ruin. His left arm hung useless. But he was alive. He slammed Dorn into the floor, his one good hand crushing the commander's wrist, forcing the grenade to drop. It rolled, inert. "This one," Cathur growled, his two hearts hammering, "is finished." He held Dorn down, his massive boot on the commander's chest. Dorn looked up, not at Cathur, but at Aiden. He was beaten. Truly, finally beaten. Cathur looked at Aiden, awaiting the judgment. Maleth screamed in rage, distracted by the intrusion. Her scepter wavered. The guards pinning Aiden faltered for a fraction of a second. It was all he needed. Aiden exploded forward, moving through the guards' defense. He was not aiming for them. He was not aiming for Maleth. He was aiming for the scepter. Maleth saw him coming. She raised the scepter to strike. His longer spear, in his right hand, parried the blow, the ancient wood shattering. His left hand, holding the shorter spear, completed the motion. The leaf-shaped blade sliced through the air. It did not touch her. It struck the glittering, blue crystal at the apex of the scepter. There was a sound, like a dying star. A high-pitched shriek, a flash of blue light, and the scepter died. Its hum was gone. The four guards attacking Aiden froze. They stopped, as if waking from a dream. They looked at their hands, at Aiden, at their empress. The link was broken. Aiden stood before Malith. Both were unarmed. You. Malith was trembling. Her power, her crutch, gone. She drew a small, jeweled knife from her robes. You cannot, she lunged. A desperate, clumsy, human attack. Aiden simply stepped aside, catching her wrist, using her own momentum to spin her around, and pinned her against the throne. He held her there. Now, Nyara, he yelled. The broken scepter's pulse had fractured the throne's lock. Nyara ripped the panel open. She slammed Tamsin's data puck into the projector's core. Tamsin. I hear you, Tamsin's voice roared. Flooding the line, using the Chaos mod. Hold on to your asses. The silence grid projector under the throne began to whine. It was fighting Tamsin's signal. A signal that did not follow rules. A signal that was built on the asymmetrical, chaotic data of Aiden's own combat style. The grid tried to predict it. It failed. A hole, a single, galaxy-wide hole, was punched through the Imperial broadcast blockade. Across the galaxy, on trillions of screens, the image changed. The locked Imperial sigil vanished, replaced by the raw data from the Kestrel Spire vault. Imperial Edict 749 Alpha. The doctored logs. The proof of the 50,000-year lie. The broadcast was originating from the Empress's own throne room. In the hall, the ambassadors' data slates, which had been blank, lit up. They saw the truth. Malith, pinned by Aiden, saw the data streaming across her own throne screen. No, I am the Empire, I am order. This is not order, Aiden said, his voice quiet. But it was picked up by the live audio feed. This is tyranny. He released her, shoving her back onto the throne. He turned, facing the ambassadors. He was just a man, scarred, bleeding, and exhausted. You see the truth, he called out, his voice echoing. She told you your ways were wrong. She told you your traditions were chaos. She forced you into her mold, her standard, because she was afraid of you. The Silthari elder stood, his face a mask of cold fury. He speaks the truth. The Amethyr Empire has invalidated our treaty. It has invalidated itself. Our methods are ours, the Grell ambassador roared, standing up. We will not be standardized. One by one, the delegates of the Neutral Council and the vassal worlds rose, a wave of open rebellion. Malith Karzara was cornered. Her algorithm was broken. Her allies were gone. Her lies were exposed. She fell back on the one thing she had left. Guards! She shrieked, her voice a raw, tearing sound. Praetorians, fire! Fire on the ambassadors! Fire on them, all purge this hall that is in order. The hall fell silent. The 50 Praetorian guards stood frozen. They looked at the Empress, her face twisted in a mask of madness. They looked at the unarmed ambassadors. They looked at Cathur, who had Revel Dorn pinned, awaiting legal justice. They looked at Aiden Vale, who had disarmed the Empress, but had not harmed her. The captain of the guard, a man whose ancestors had served the throne for 5,000 years, stepped forward. He looked at Malith, his face etched with a profound, historical sadness. No. Malith stared, her mouth open. What did you say? It is an order. It is your duty, our duty, the captain said, his voice resonating with absolute authority. Is to the Amethyr ideal, to the concordance, to order. He turned, facing not the crowd, but his own Empress. You, he said. Our chaos. He raised his hand. Praetorian Guard. Detain Malith Karzara. She has violated the concordance. She has betrayed the ideal. The Crimson Guards did not hesitate. They moved as one. They converged on the throne, bypassing Aiden, ignoring the ambassadors. They surrounded their empress. She fought. She screamed. She was a feral, cornered animal. I am the empress you cannot. I am the empire. You are a criminal, the captain replied. He took her by the arm, and his men, loyal not to the person, but to the principle, escorted the screaming, weeping empress from the Hall of Seven Stars. Silence. The throne was empty. The scepter was broken. The silence grid collapsed. Communications flooded back in. The galaxy, which had just seen the raw truth, exploded. Aiden didn't watch her go. He turned and ran to Nyara, who had slumped to the floor, her mission complete. He slid to his knees beside her, gathering her into his arms. It's over, she whispered, her eyes fluttering. It's over, he confirmed. He gently pulled aside the ruined fabric of her uniform to inspect the wound. The bioweave had held, but the force had been brutal. She was bleeding, but it was not fatal. You need a real medbay, he said, his voice thick. My timing, she breathed, was terrible. I almost compromised the mission. You were the mission, he said. He ripped a clean, silken banner from the throne itself and began to fashion a proper pressure bandage. His hands, which had wielded spears and swords with such precision, now moving with a desperate tenderness. Aiden, she whispered, watching his face. I made a promise, he said, not looking up, his voice low and rough, that after this storm, we would talk, with our hearts, not with our swords. He secured the knot, his hands trembling just slightly. He finally met her gaze. Her multifocal eyes were focused only on him. I will hold you to that, Aiden Vale, she murmured. He leaned down and pressed his forehead to hers. The cheering of the liberated ambassadors and the frantic calls of a galaxy in upheaval, fading to a distant, meaningless roar. The reconstruction of the galaxy began not with a bang, but with the scratching of 1,000 pens on data slates. The Hall of Seven Stars, once Malith's echo chamber of absolute power, became the noisy, chaotic birthplace of a new government. 3 months after the fall of the throne, the chamber was packed. The air, once sterile and cold, was thick with the scent of 100 different biologies and the sound of 50 different languages arguing in passionate, disorganized harmony. They were hammering out the final details of the Treaty of Destandardization. Aiden Vale stood in a shadowed alcove, watching. He hated meetings. He felt like a stray dog in a ballroom. You look like you're about to dual-wield the beverage dispenser, a voice said. He turned. Nyara Tesh looked magnificent. She was dressed in new diplomatic silks, the color of a deep space nebula. The bioweave armor was gone, but a thin, silver scar marked the spot just below her collarbone where Dorn's knife had struck. It was the only jewelry she wore. I was a technician, Aiden said, sipping the awful, bitter liquid that passed for Amethyr ceremonial calf. I fix things that are broken. This is just talking. This, Nyara said, tapping a data slate, is how you keep things from breaking again. The asymmetrical curriculum has just been ratified by the new council. All Imperial academies will be restructured. The Aegis Index is officially classified as a historical artifact, a failed experiment. Good, Aiden grunted. They're saving you a seat, you know, she added, her multifocal eyes twinkling. You are, after all, the galaxy's most famous proponent of statistical chaos. I'm a soldier, Nyara, not a politician. Which is why they want you, she grew serious, her voice dropping. The Praetorian captain, the one who arrested Malith, is now regent commander of the Amethyr fleet. He and the Silthari Elder have formally proposed the new position, academic director of asymmetrical tactics. Aiden scowled. Director. It sounds quiet. The job description, which I helped draft, Nyara said, includes full authority to field test emerging strategies. It also includes a clause for rapid threat assessment and intervention. You would, in essence, be paid handsomely to break any system that becomes too rigid. You would be the Empire's official, state-sanctioned heretic. Aiden considered this. A heretic with a salary. And what's your new title? Keeper of the Heretic. Chief Attaché for the Interspecies Reconciliation, she replied, the title rolling smoothly off her tongue. I do the talking. You do the breaking. A perfectly asymmetrical partnership. A dance, Aiden mused, of two blades. And two hearts, she finished, smiling. Ours are slightly less synchronized than Cathur's, but we managed to find a rhythm. The mention of their friend sobered him. Is it? Today, Nyara nodded. The final sentencing, Revel Dorn. The Imperial Tribunal was held in a smaller, more somber hall. There were no crowds, only judges, witnesses, and the law. Ravel Dorn was in the defendant's box. He was clean, healed, and wearing a simple gray uniform. The arrogant sneer was gone, replaced by a hollow, brittle shell. He looked defeated, but not repentant. Aiden and Nyara sat in the gallery, but the key witness was already standing. Cathur, his grell armor polished, his left arm still in a supportive sling, addressed the three Amethyr judges. Ravel Dorn, the prosecutor, a stern xylophone, asked, was defeated by Aiden Vale in the arena. You later apprehended him in the Hall of Seven Stars. Why, in your opinion, did Aiden Vale spare him twice? Cathur's dual hearts beat a slow, steady rhythm. The Grell have a saying, revenge is the rust on a clean blade. It serves only the wielder's pride, not the steel. He turned his broad head toward Dorn. Aiden Vale did not want his pride served. He wanted the law served. He gave this man. He pointed a massive finger at Dorn. To you. He showed this man the difference between an execution and justice. He gave him a gift Ravel Dorn never gave to the people of Cygnus 9. Dorn finally looked up, his eyes filled with a venomous, pathetic hatred. He gave him a trial. Cathur finished. The verdict was unanimous. Ravel Dorn was found guilty of war crimes, sedition, and 17 counts of mass murder. He was sentenced to life in the labor prisons of Tartarus. He was led away in chains, finally, truly, broken. Aiden let out a breath he had been holding for 6 years. It was over. The fire was finally out. That evening, they were summoned. Not to the court, but to the Imperial Archives. The Silthari Elder, the same one who had ordered Nyara's excommunication, met them at the door. He bowed, a gesture of profound respect. Director Vale, Attaché Tesh, he said, your presence is required. We have found something. Tamsin Rook was already inside, her face lit by the glow of a holographic display. She looked like a child in a candy store. You are not going to believe this, she whispered, her voice electric. The new Praetorian regent, the Elder explained, granted my government full access to Malith's private historical files, the ones sealed since the Varos uprising, 40 years ago, the ones you were unable to open on Kestrel Spire. I was right, Tamsin said, pointing. The uprising, it was the key. She activated the display. It was not a document. It was a private, audio-visual log. The face that appeared was younger, softer than Malith's, but the resemblance was uncanny. This, the Elder said, is the private journal of Empress Calithra, Malith's great-grandmother. Kalithra's voice was strained, secretive. Log entry 47. The Varos uprising is complex. The rebels are using tactics we cannot predict. But the true anomaly is not the rebellion. It is the human. Aiden and Nyara froze. He calls himself a wanderer, Kalithra's voice continued. A Terran, shipwrecked. He fights. He fights like a whisper, like two streams of water that never meet, yet flow from the same source. He uses two blades, one long, one short. He offered to teach me, in exchange for a new ship. He calls it the Dance of the Void. The log played on. It showed grainy footage of Kalithra, in a private training room, learning the asymmetrical movements, learning to separate her mind, learning the exact art that Aiden had discovered through instinct. She learned it, Aiden breathed. An Amethyr Empress. Learned to dual-wield, 40 years ago. Keep listening, Tamsin said, her eyes wide. Kalithra's log entry. 2 days later. The human is gone. I gave him his ship. His dance is a weapon of terrifying power. It is unimperial. It is chaotic. It cannot be predicted by the index. If it were to spread, our authority, my authority, would be challenged. It is too dangerous for anyone else to know. Her final entry on the subject was cold. I have sealed these files. I will pass the art only to my bloodline. It will be our secret, our final defense, should the Aegis ever fail. To all others, the doctrine must be reinforced. It must become absolute. The archive fell silent. The implications settled on them like a shroud. It was all a lie, Nyara whispered, her hand finding Aiden's. The doctrine, the standardization, the 50,000 years of dogma. It wasn't a lie, Aiden said, his voice hollow. He was staring at the blank screen, his mind racing. He was seeing Malith on her throne, in the arena, her voice echoing. No species can dual-wield. She wasn't a hybrid. Not in the way we thought, Tamsin muttered. Her great-grandmother just learned. No, the Silthari elder said, his voice grim. He brought up a second file, a DNA marker chart. There is one more secret, the human wanderer. It seems he and the Empress Kalithra were more than teacher and student. He pointed to the bloodline chart, a single, non-Amethyr marker, a human marker. It had been passed down, hidden, diluted, for 4 generations, straight to Malith. Aiden stumbled back, as if physically struck. She's part human. The entire war, the crusade against humanity, the sanctions, the hatred. Her entire reign, Nyara said, completing the thought, was an act of self-loathing. She despised the chaos in her own blood. She tried to purge the galaxy of the one thing she feared in herself. Aiden finally understood. The shock was so profound. It was almost silent. He remembered her words, her taunts. No species can dual-wield. He said the words aloud. It wasn't a law, he whispered. It was a psychological weapon. She didn't mean it was physically impossible. She meant that no other species was worthy. She was trying to break our confidence, to make us believe we were flawed, unfinished, so we would never try. His victory in the arena. It wasn't just defeating an algorithm. It was breaking a 50,000-year-old curse. The trial of Malith Karzara was the shortest in Imperial history. When the Silthari delegation presented the genetic proof, and the journals, she did not speak. She simply sat on the defendant's throne, her power gone, her lies exposed, her entire life revealed as a terrified fraud. Aiden did not attend the sentencing. He had no interest in watching her fall. He had already moved on. He sat with Nyara in their new, shared apartment, overlooking the central plaza. When the news alert came, Malith was found guilty, not of tyranny, but of the highest imperial crime, doctrinal perversion, using the aegis to suppress truth rather than find it. She was stripped of her name, her titles, and her heritage. She was sentenced to life imprisonment in the Sky Towers of Solitude, the very place she had sent her political enemies. Justice, not revenge. The effect on the galaxy was immediate. It was as if a dam had broken. The news that dual-wielding was not only possible, but had been monopolized by the throne, created a renaissance of chaos. On Grell, warriors began training with 2 kinetic shields, one for high absorption, one for low. On Xyloth Prime, mathematicians began solving impossible equations using dual logic streams. A trend of asymmetrical thought swept the liberated worlds. The core concept that specialization was not the only path was applied to art, to science, to philosophy. The galaxy was, for the first time in millennia, unpredictable. And on Heliarch, in the bright morning sun of the former Imperial Plaza, the children played. Aiden Vale, academic director of asymmetrical tactics, stood on the marble tiles that had once echoed with the boots of Praetorians. He was surrounded by a dozen children, a small, giggling Grell, 2 silent Silthari twins, a human girl with pigtails, and a chittering xylophone adolescent. He held 2 light, wooden sticks. One was long, one was short. "No, no," he said, laughing, as the Grell child swung both sticks with all his might. "It is not about strength. It is a dance." He moved. His right hand, holding the long stick, flowed in a gentle circle. His left hand, with the short stick, tapped a pattern on the ground. The children watched, mesmerized. They tried to copy him. They were clumsy. They were uncoordinated. They kept bumping into each other. And they were laughing. Aiden was not teaching them his style. He was helping them find their own. Across the plaza, at a small cafe, Niara Tesh watched. She sipped her tea, her work slate forgotten on the table. She saw Aiden kneel, adjusting the human girl's grip, whispering something that made her giggle. Aiden looked up, his eyes finding hers across the distance. He smiled. It was not the cold, defiant smile of the broadcast. It was not the weary smile of the technician. It was just his. Niara raised her cup in a silent toast. She smiled back. The dance had just begun,